All right, so we're diving deep today, folks, into a question that's been bugging sci-fi fans forever, I think. Can we actually, like, build a lightsaber?
Yeah, it's the dream.
It is. It is. And you guys sent in so much research, blueprints, even some crazy theories.
It's wild, the stuff people come up with.
So let's get into it. How close are we to really making this iconic weapon happen? We've got everything here: handle designs, energy systems. We even got quantum blade ideas. It's like real science meets Star Wars fantasy.
It's a cool mix, and honestly, it's surprising how many of these out there ideas actually do have roots in real science.
Right.
But of course, like getting from, hey, this is kind of possible in theory to here's a working lightsaber, that's a whole other galaxy.
Huge leap, yeah. So let's break it down. I mean, we need a handle, we need a blade, we need a power source that hopefully won't, explode on us. Where do we even start with this thing?
Well, you got to start with the basics, right? The foundation. Your blueprints, they mostly talk about titanium, advanced alloys for the handle. Okay.
Which is a great place to start. I mean, titanium is super strong. It's light. It can handle crazy temperatures. Think like the stuff they use in spaceships or even deep sea subs.
So it can take a few lightsaber hits.
Exactly.
But it can't be just a metal tube, right?
Oh, no. This is where the real engineering magic comes in. You got to cram in the control systems, tiny, powerful computers, energy regulators, maybe even a mechanism for extending the blade if you go that route, all in a space smaller than your hand.
Wow. Okay, so that's already, mind-boggling to me.
It's a challenge.
But, all right, let's get to the fun part, the blade. So, classic image, telescopic design, right? But I also saw in these blueprints, there's this quantum rope idea floating around. What is that all about?
Yeah, the telescopic one, that's kind of the more, I guess, straightforward way to think about it. Like, picture a really, really strong metal rod, maybe with some fancy materials mixed in, like graphene or something, and it just, shoots outwards when you turn it on.
Okay, so like a super high-tech glowy sword.
Basically, yeah. But wouldn't that, I don't know, be kind of clunky? And what about, parts breaking?
You're not wrong. Those are definitely things to consider. And that's where this quantum rope idea comes in. This one's wild. So imagine this super tightly woven material, almost like a cable, but at the nano level. And when you activate it, it goes from flexible to rigid, it gets energized, and boom, you got a solid blade.
No moving parts. Just like a rope that transforms.
Pretty much.
That sounds way more elegant.
Yeah, a lot more compact, too, potentially. And this is where we're talking about materials that can just, change their properties under the right conditions, get super strong, even start glowing when you hit them with electromagnetic fields or even some kind of quantum stimulus.
Okay, see, this is why I love these deep dives. My brain is, melting a little bit right now. But this is awesome. Okay, so we're getting the light part, maybe. But let's be real. The energy source, that's got to be the biggest problem, right? Can we even make something that small that's that powerful?
That is the million-dollar question. And with batteries, like the stuff we have now, no way, you'd need battery the size of, a car to run a lightsaber for a few minutes, tops.
It'd be ridiculous.
Yeah, totally impractical.
But there were some pretty wild things in those blueprints, right? What about those, what were they called? Quantum batteries?
Ah, yeah. Quantum battery was super interesting theoretically. They could hold, insane amounts of energy in a tiny space. But that's theoretical physics territory. It's not something we can build next week.
Right. So while we're waiting for physics to catch up, any other options? Could we at least get a few seconds of lightsaber action?
Maybe. You could look at advanced solid-state batteries or supercapacitors. They can give you those quick bursts of energy.
Okay.
Wouldn't be a constant beam, though. More think of a super powerful camera flash.
Like a very stylish camera flash.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe a lightsaber that, ignites for these short bursts. That's at least a starting point.
All right, I'll take it. But then how do we even make that blade-like energy? It's not just a giant light bulb, right?
No, definitely not. The closest thing we could get to a real lightsaber blade, that's probably going to involve controlled plasma. Imagine a miniature sun contained and shaped inside the hilt.
A mini sun in my hand. Now you're talking.
Right.
But how do you even contain something like that? Isn't plasma, super dangerous?
Oh, it definitely is. And that's where the engineering gets really, really intense. The key is magnetic fields. Super strong ones. You use those to contain the plasma, shape it. Kind of similar to how fusion reactors work, just, a lot smaller.
So we're talking about shrinking those giant reactor magnets into, lightsaber size.
Basically.
Sounds impossible.
That's a huge challenge for sure. But, we are getting better at superconductors, miniaturization. It's not like pure science fiction anymore. It's more like really, really difficult science.
Really difficult, yeah. Okay, so maybe we can like hold a mini sun in our hand someday. Cool. But what about, the lightsaber doing lightsaber things? We need it to cut stuff, but also block those blaster shots.
Yeah, that's where it gets even trickier. But in theory, if you can control the plasma really well, you could get both. Like imagine a really dense, focused plasma stream for cutting.
Okay.
But then a wider, more spread out field that could act like a deflector.
So we'd be like adjusting the plasma's intensity on the fly.
Yeah, basically. Changing its shape, too. It's a lot of control over magnetic fields, energy flow. But think of it this way. You have a dial on the hilt.
Right.
Low setting, it hums, deflects energy bolts. Crank it up, you've got a blazing inferno slicing through stuff.
I like the sound of that. But before I get too carried away, wouldn't all this generate a ton of heat?
Oh, absolutely. We'd need serious cooling systems in that handle.
I was going to say, wouldn't the thing just melt?
It could, yeah. So you'd be looking at like graphene heat sinks, maybe even liquid metal cooling, kind of like what they use in supercomputers.
So to recap, we're building a tiny fusion reactor, putting it in our hands,
Yeah.
and then trying to make sure it doesn't melt.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
But before we get into like the specifics of how to cool a lightsaber, which sounds fascinating, by the way, let's zoom out for a second.
Okay.
We've talked about these, quantum ropes, mini suns. What else is out there? I mean, blade-wise, what are some of the wilder ideas?
Oh, we've barely scratched the surface. There are some really futuristic lightsaber blade concepts. I mean, we've talked about quantum ropes, controlled plasma, but there's even crazier stuff out there that could, change everything.
Okay, lay it on me. What kind of mind-bending lightsaber tech are we talking about here?
All right, how about this? The quantum tether blade. So instead of like a physical blade, it's a loop of pure energy. You can't even see it until it like touches something.
Hold on, a blade made of like invisible energy.
Yeah.
So no more big clunky hilt, no plasma to contain. That's some like next level sci-fi stuff.
It is, and think about it, it'd be super portable. Maybe you just have it like in a wristwatch or even a ring.
Now that's a stealth weapon. But how do you even make a loop of pure energy? Is that even possible, like physics as we know it?
It's definitely pushing the limits. You'd have to get into quantum entanglement. That's where, particles are linked together no matter how far apart they are. So you'd create a loop of these entangled particles, energize them to a state where they can actually interact with matter and cause it to, basically break apart.
So we're talking about like manipulating the fundamental forces of the universe to make a weapon.
Pretty much, yeah. And the crazy thing is the potential goes way beyond just cutting stuff. I mean, this kind of tech, you could use it for like moving objects remotely, force fields, even teleportation maybe.
Whoa. Now we're getting into like Star Trek territory. Let's stick with lightsabers for now. Any other futuristic but maybe slightly less universe-bending lightsaber ideas?
All right, how about this one? It's both fascinating and kind of scary. The micro-singularity blade. So picture this. You create a tiny black hole at the tip of the lightsaber.
Wait, a black hole? Seriously?
Yeah.
How do you even make a black hole, let alone make it, like, do what you want? Wouldn't it just suck up the whole planet?
It's super speculative for sure, but there are theories in physics that suggest you could like maybe create these micro black holes through high energy particle collisions. The trick would be containing it and somehow harnessing that energy.
I can only imagine the safety precautions on that.
Oh yeah, one wrong move and you've got
Well,
problem.
it's a black hole in your pocket, not good.
Not good at all. But if you could pull it off, the cutting power of a microsingularity blade, I mean, it would be off the charts. Could slice through anything, maybe even like disrupt space-time itself.
Okay, that officially wins the award for most badass lightsaber concept. But we're probably a few centuries away from that, right?
Yeah.
What about something a little more, grounded?
Okay, well, this one kind of bridges the gap between practical and totally insane. The standing energy wave blade. So no plasma, no physical structure. You're generating a standing wave of electromagnetic energy. And it's tuned perfectly to create basically A blade of pure light.
No superheated plasma, no quantum ropes, just like a blade of light.
Exactly.
That sounds incredible. How would that even work?
You'd be manipulating electromagnetic energy in a very specific way. So with a standing wave, you're essentially trapping the energy in this fixed pattern, creates that blade shape. And then depending on the frequency, the intensity of the wave, you could get different effects. High frequency, you're slicing through stuff. Low frequency, maybe it acts more like a force field, deflecting things.
So you're saying like we could have a lightsaber that switches between cutting and deflecting modes just by like changing the frequency of this energy wave.
That's the idea. Would take incredible control over electromagnetic fields, but, it's a possibility.
I gotta say, even though we're talking about, some pretty far out stuff, I'm actually kind of optimistic about lightsabers, happening someday.
Yeah.
Maybe science will catch up with our Star Wars dreams. But for now, I'm curious, like, what are some of the research areas that you think are, actually going to move us closer to a real lightsaber in the near future?
So we've talked about some pretty crazy lightsaber tech, quantum tethers, microsingularity blades, the whole works. Really makes you think, like maybe someday we could actually see these things in action. But I'm kind of curious now, what about right now? What's being worked on that could actually get us closer to a real lightsaber, like in our lifetime?
One area that's really promising, and we've touched on it a bit, is advanced materials. Graphene, that's one.
Yeah.
But there's a whole like universe of nanomaterials and metamaterials out there. And they could totally change how we think about building a lightsaber. Right, right. Okay, remind me again, what's so special about these materials? Like, why are they so important for lightsabers?
So nanomaterials, they're engineered at like the atomic level, super tiny scales. And that gives them these crazy properties you don't find in regular materials. For instance, you can have nanomaterials that are super strong, but also incredibly lightweight, perfect for, say, a lightsaber handle, or even, if you're going for a telescopic blade design.
Okay, yeah, I'm starting to see how that would be useful.
And then you've got metamaterials, which are even weirder. These are engineered to have properties that, don't even exist in nature. Like, they can bend light in crazy ways or manipulate electromagnetic waves.
So could we use those to make a blade that actually deflects, like blaster fire?
That's the idea. And think about it, we're already using metamaterials in all sorts of cool tech. Cloaking devices, advanced optics, all that stuff. It's not that far-fetched to think they could be a big part of lightsabers, too.
That's pretty exciting. Any other research areas that have you, particularly hopeful?
Definitely. Plasma physics is another one to watch. Like we said earlier, controlled plasma, that's probably the closest we're going to get to a real lightsaber blade anytime soon. Now, obviously, we're not going to be shrinking down a fusion reactor and putting it in a lightsaber hilt. Not yet, at least. But there are some really interesting things happening in plasma research right now.
Oh, really? Like what?
Well, scientists are getting better at creating more stable plasmas, ones we can control better, using magnetic fields, lasers, things like that. And they're also figuring out new ways to generate plasma that are way more energy efficient. Like, there are people experimenting with using microwaves to create plasma. Some are even using sound waves.
Hold on, sound waves to make plasma. That sounds kind of crazy.
It is, but it's a really cool area of research, and it could totally change the game. I mean, if you can make plasma without needing a massive power source, it opens up all sorts of possibilities. Who knows, maybe that's the key to a more compact, portable lightsaber.
Sound wave powered lightsaber. Yeah, I'm adding that to my list of awesome sci-fi tech. But stepping away from all the cool tech stuff for a minute, what about the safety side of things? I mean, a lightsaber is a pretty dangerous weapon, right?
Yeah.
Even if we could figure out how to build one, wouldn't it be super risky to actually use?
Oh, absolutely. Safety is the biggest thing here. And honestly, that's probably one of the main reasons we don't have real lightsabers yet. I mean, you'd need so many safety features, fail-safes, all that, to make sure no one accidentally hurts themselves or, causes a major disaster.
Yeah, that makes sense. What kind of safety features are we even talking about?
Well, you could have biometric sensors, so only the owner can activate the lightsaber, or maybe a system that automatically shuts off the blade if it touches, living tissue. And then you've got the whole energy containment issue. Got to make sure there are no accidental plasma bursts or anything like that.
So basically, making a safe lightsaber is almost as hard as making the lightsaber itself.
Pretty much, yeah. It's a whole other level of complexity. But if we're ever going to see lightsabers in the real world, it has to be done right. Can't be cutting corners on safety.
No doubt about that.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's safe to say, after all this, building a lightsaber is a massive challenge, to say the least. pushing the boundaries of physics, engineering, even ethics. It's a lot.
It is, but that's also what makes it so exciting. I mean, just think about it. This one, seemingly impossible technology, it could lead to breakthroughs in all these other areas. Energy, materials, science, who knows what else. And hey, maybe someday we will be swinging lightsabers around.
Maybe, maybe. And even if we never get to that point, even if lightsabers stay in the realm of science fiction, just trying to figure it out, that's a testament to how creative humans can be.
Absolutely. The impossible, it often just leads to something even more amazing.
I like that. A good reminder to never stop dreaming, right? And to always keep pushing those limits of what we think we can do. So to everyone listening, keep those imaginations going. And of course, may the Force be with you.